Hi everyone, it's Dawn. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different than all my typical videos. That I would just choose a topic and talk to you about it and have a chatty video. And those of you who don't like chatty videos can tune out, but I'm not going to be sharing anything. Well, who knows? It might be one of those videos like when I'm sharing makeup and I go out in left field and talk about my personal life. Now that I'm talking about my personal life, I might go out in left field and share products with you. So you never know. So I thought that the topic I would choose would be heartbreak in female friendships. And we have all had, I think, our heart broken in a friendship. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And there's a couple of reasons why. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to go grab your water or your tea or your coffee, because we're going to be chatting like girlfriends. And the reason that this video topic came up is, number one, I shared with you off topic about my college roommates in my last video, and some of you said you really like when I do that. I don't do that very often where I go completely off topic. I've done it a couple of times. I shared my birth stories of all 4 of my kids just randomly one day while I was doing a makeup video. And then last time I shared with you, what did I share with you? Oh my gosh, my menopause brain. Do you guys have that? Or you might have gone through it. I just start talking and completely forget what I'm talking about. My last video, what did I talk? Oh, I talked about my college roommates. Okay, so I was thinking about that, and I have a couple of things that kind of made me start thinking about friendships lately. One is a YouTube video that I watched a couple of months ago, and it was a woman who I'd never seen before. It came up randomly in my role in YouTube, recommended for me, and it's called I'm 54 and Have No Friends. So I watched it and I thought it was a really good video, and it's just a woman like myself in her home just sharing. And she doesn't have, she's pretty new to YouTube from what I can tell. And she even said in a video after that, where she talked more on that topic, that video just blew up, and it did. She's got like a crazy amount of views. I don't even remember, but something like 54,000. I don't know, maybe I'm completely off. But anyways, it had a lot of views, and she said that she was so shocked and surprised. So she talked more about it. And I need to drop her a comment. I haven't yet, but I really enjoyed her openness and transparency. And I mean, it's really hard to say, I have no friends, you know? I mean, that's, you kind of are like, well, what's wrong with me? Do I really want to say that? But then I have a friend on Facebook, and she's a woman who I knew for the past 20 years, but we never had a friendship. We did Bible study together a few times. She used to sell direct sales, so I threw a party for her. You know what I mean? She sold I don't know, some jewelry or something like Silpata or Leah Sophia. So I hosted a party for her. And as she was in my life, she was really hard to get to know. There was something about her that I found to be very standoffish, and I could never crack through that and become friends with her, but I really wanted to, but it just never happened. And now she's moved out of the state. We're not in proximity of each other, but she has a Facebook, and I'm her friend on Facebook, and she always makes comments or puts little memes up about being hurt by friends, or I don't know, things like those little memes that say things like, why are women so horrible to each other? We should be straightening each other's crown. It's said much more eloquently than that, but those kinds of memes, and they're all the time. And I remember when she lived here, she would go through groups of friends. And so anyways, there was something about her, and I don't know, I think to myself, what is the common denominator here? You had trouble here, you're having trouble there, this thing is always going on in your life. So what is the thing that is common to that experience? And it's you. You know, I always think that, as horrible as that is, but we do need to look inward, I think. So I thought that heartbreak in female friendships would be a good topic, because I've had my heart broken in female friendships, and I know that many of you have as well. If you haven't, you're really, really lucky. Some people have the same friends from when they were in preschool or college or wherever, and they follow them through life, and that's really great. I don't have that because I moved a lot within the state that I live, and like I said in my last video with my roommates, your friends are in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And when that season or reason changes, the friendship can fade away, even though it's amicable. And I've never had a friendship end that wasn't sort of amicable, like it was fading. And it was sad. I always would get so sad because when you see it happening, you're kind of reaching out like, no, and you want to get together with that friend and you want to repair it. But for whatever reason, it's just not where you live. Maybe you got married and have a spouse and different people in your life now, or you're not in school anymore, or in the same exercise class or Bible study or whatever the case may be. So you just don't see each other as much. I do have a couple of friends who are really, really good friends. One is a friend that I've had probably about 14 years now, and she lives in my neighborhood. Her name is Beth. I don't think she watches my videos, but if you do, hi Beth. And she lives a couple blocks from me. And it's funny because we know a lot of the same people, but we have different groups of friends, but we're like each other's touchstone. So we come together and she can share with me all about things going on in her life, or troubles and friendships, whatever is troubling her, and I'm there for her, and she's my touchstone. So the same thing, I could call her at any time and say, I need to talk to you, I need to hash something out. When are you available? Recently she sent me a meme, and I laughed, and I sent her things back. You know, it's like funny. It says, the meme she sent me says, you have those friends that you send memes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then you call each other crying. You know what I mean? It's like, I need to see you. So that's what our friendship is like. We are always staying in touch. We always have little things to talk about, so we text each other, or I'll send her things from Instagram, but she's always there for me, and I love her, and she is a good friend. And then I have my friend Elaine, who I met when our daughters were in kindergarten, and they were 5, and now they're 25, so she's been my friend for 20 years. I need to call her today and tell her that, because I didn't think about that till just now. But she lived in my neighborhood for a really long time, and I bought a new house in the same neighborhood in 2014, and at that time she moved to Seattle, and my heart was broken, and I didn't know what was going to happen to our friendship, because I thought, this is someone I love dearly. I get together with her regularly. We have so much in common, so much to talk about, yet I'm not going to see her. When will I see her? And then she moved from Seattle to Georgia, and she lived in Georgia for a few years. And then she moved to San Jose, California, and now she's living in El Dorado Hills, which is a suburb of Sacramento. So she's moved. I moved to this house in 2014, and she's moved 5 times since I moved. And we stay in touch. We call each other. We talk for like I could call her and talk for 2 hours. She's another touchstone in my life, and she's always there for me, and I'm always there for her. Okay, everyone, let's take a sip of our coffee, tea, or water. We got to stay hydrated because it's so hot outside. And then I've got like people in my life who are women. Like my husband has 9 sisters, so I have 9 sisters-in-law, and there's 2. And I don't think they know about my channel or watch it. I'm not going to say their names, but there's 2 that I'm close to and really love. They're like, you know, like sisters. So I've got that. And then I have a real life sister, and I don't think she watches my videos or even knows about my YouTube channel. And our relationship has always been, I don't know, I hate to put a label on it, but I don't want to say it's never been good, but when we were younger, we were really, really different. She's very prim and proper, really beautiful and popular. And I was a tomboy and a ruffian. I was very scrappy, and we'd fight physically, probably mostly my fault, because what would happen is we would be playing in our living room, and I can picture this. I'd be like in my dad's recliner chair that swivels, and for some reason, a fight would break out. One of us would say something to the other, and then whoever was in the chair would start kicking their feet like crazy as the other one was trying to get to them. And my dad made us keep our hair really long. We weren't Amish or anything, but he would never let us cut our hair. So we had really long hair. So that was always bad, because one of us could get the other one's hair when you're in the chair. And then when someone got hurt, that's when all hell would break loose. And we'd be running around the house, physically fighting, slamming doors. My parents, I don't know where they were. I don't know where they were, but that was our childhood. And then as we grew up, again, she was beautiful, very popular, never, she was kind to me. And I remember I was really dorky and I liked to read a lot. And I'll go more into that, but she was 2 years older than me, so she could drive. And this was my middle school years, which were rough. They were really hard. And she would put me in her car. I would physically get in her car. She didn't put me there. And she would take me on drives and drive. I need to talk to her about that. I doubt she remembers it, but she would do that for me. And it got me out of the house because I don't want to cry. I'm not going to be someone who cries on YouTube, but I'll tell you more about that. It was rough. I have some trauma related to that. So when I was a little girl, I was very tomboyish. My sister always said I'm the boy dad never had. I had a little dirt bike that my dad got me, and he would take me dirt biking. And as luck would have it, all the kids around my house that were my age were boys, and my sister had all the girls. They were her age. So I hung out with the boys. And so I was definitely more of a tomboy. And I played more like a boy. I was very rough. So I outgrew that when I got to middle school. And that's where the story comes in. But back when I was younger, when I got to like second grade, I started becoming more aware of girls and the boys no longer wanted to play with me. I would try to infiltrate different friend groups because girls would always be like in like packs, usually packs of 2 or a bigger pack. And I had a few girlfriends, but they lived like not far, like 5 blocks from me, but there were 3 of them and they all lived within a couple doors of each other. And I was like 5 blocks away. So it was hard for me. They would just go outside and find each other. And so it was hard to infiltrate that group. And I didn't have I had a couple girlfriends, and I had my cousin who is my age. And that's pretty much who I hung out with and played with when I was younger. Okay. Now to middle school, I became very socially aware. I became like a girly girl, and I didn't really have any interest in playing with the boys anymore, although I was starting to get an interest in the boys, if you know what I mean. So anyways, I became friends with a group of girls, and when you're 13 years old and you are in a group of girls and then you make a best friend, there is nothing better than that. A 13-year-old girl with a best friend, it's like, yes, at least it was for me. I would just wake up and I would call her, and we didn't have like obviously cell phones or anything like that. And I remember Saturday mornings, I could smell the air because it was kind of dewy. And I remember to get to her house, to make a shortcut, I had to climb a fence. So I'd climb this fence, get to her house, we'd meet, and we would just be gone all day long. We'd go to the arcade, we would roller skate in the streets, we would do whatever we wanted to do. And we had a best friendship, and I loved her so much. But when we got a little bit older and other girls kind of joined us, we were invited to a birthday party. And I went to this birthday party with my friend, and her mom and dad weren't home. And she was probably 14. She was turning 14. And her older brother, who was a teenager, got us beer. I remember this, and I was like, oh my gosh. So we were drinking the beer. I don't remember a lot about that. I wasn't drunk. I know I wasn't drunk, but I did have some beer. And my mom showed up to pick us up. And I thought that she showed up to pick us up because she was early, but she was actually right on time. Because I always say to her, you were early, you came early and you busted us. She's like, no, I picked you up on time. And my friend, I'm not gonna say her name, was drunk, and she came staggering out of the house. And I was not drunk, but I do know I had beer. So I'm not claiming I was innocent and like, oh, I'm not gonna have any beer. I remember like doing what the girls were doing, but my recollection, I don't really remember, but my guess is that I didn't like it. So I didn't have a lot of it. I just probably held the can and pretended because, it's not tasty. So my mom came and picked us up, and my sister was in the car with her. And I got in the front seat. My sister was in the back seat for whatever reason. And then my drunk friend, who my mom had to drive home, got in the back seat too. And my mom was upset. And I don't remember her yelling at us, but I know that she busted us and knew we'd been drinking beer, and she knew my friend was drunk. And so she now was responsible for getting my friend home, and my mom was really upset about that. Her mom worked at a grocery store like a block behind her house. So on the way to my friend's house, my sister and my friend got in kind of like a fight, and they started to swear at each other. Like my sister was like kind of on my mom's side going, yeah, you guys are drunk, and you know, I don't know, just talking smack. And my friend was drunk and was giving it back to her. So my mom's like, I have to touch base with your mom because I am not going to drop you off drunk and then leave. So we get to my friend's house. My friend jumps out of the car. She runs into her house. And my mom didn't realize her mom was working at that time. My mom was ringing the doorbell and knocking on the door. And my sister and I see my friend going out her window. And I'm like, oh my gosh, her mom's not home and she's going out the window. So my sister tells my mom gets back in the car and goes to drive to the store where her mom worked. And as luck would have it, the grocery store has those sliding doors on both sides. My friend went in one door, my sister and I went in the other. And my friend's mom was working, and they both started kind of telling her what was going on. And I was just mortified. I couldn't believe it. And anyway, my mom told her mom. I did get grounded too. I should have, I guess, called my mom to come get us, whatever. And so that happened. And I was mortified because I loved my friend. This is my best friend. And so we went to school the next week. And I think my mom talked to some other moms, and my world was upside down. So I went from having a lot of friends and having a group of girls that I loved to nobody wanting to talk to me. And that was awful. And that happened close to the end of the school year. I think we were in 7th grade. And that summer, I had nothing to do. I had absolutely no friends to hang out with. And my mom would say things like, go make a friend, go outside, go make a friend. I'm like, what am I going to do? Knock on someone's door and ask if you can be my friend? So I remember that summer, I just read a lot. I remember I read the whole V.C. Andrews series. Have any of you read that? Flowers in the Attic and all the ones that come after it. I read all the V.C. Andrews books. And then I started 8th grade, and things were still rough. I remember I did make a boyfriend that I would hang out with. Sometimes we'd ride our bikes and kiss a little bit and things like that. But that was it. I didn't have a lot of friends after that. And then I became kind of introverted. And I don't know if that would have happened normally, but I did become more of an introvert. And I went into high school. And I did make some new friends, because when you go into high school, all the area middle schools filtrate into the high school. So there were a whole lot more people, and I didn't even really see a lot of those people anymore. But when I did, I felt very self-conscious, very embarrassed. It was just horrible. But then I went into high school, and I did make a girlfriend who was another best friend, and that was lovely. She was my very good friend. I only needed one. I had other little acquaintances, but I had my best friend, and that was lovely again, and life started to look better. And then she got a boyfriend, and then she didn't want to hang out anymore because she was with him all the time. It took a while. I did hang out with her and him and his friends and things like that for a long time, but then they got very serious, and they got really into each other. And then by junior year, I got a boyfriend, and he was my boyfriend for 5 years. So then all the way into college. So anyways, that's a little bit about my history with friendships. It's always been putting all my eggs in one basket and having a best friend, and then just some little acquaintances on the outskirts of that friendship. And it really affected me with my kids, particularly my daughters, because I really worried about them when they got in middle school. It was really weird. It triggered a lot of anxiety in me. I hate to use the word trauma. When I think of trauma, I think of things like I've been attacked, or a family or friend took advantage of me, or, you know, I think of trauma more like that, but it did trigger a lot of anxiety in me and a lot of like going back, and it just caused so much anxiety in me. But they're both through it and they're grown, and I'm kind of glad. Like I'm glad that those years were over, because it was really hard for me reliving them through my kids. So this video is getting long. I need to start wrapping it up. So then I told you about my college roommates, and I told you that story already. So I'll skip over that. And now that brings me to adulthood. After I graduated nursing school, the program that I was in was a new grad program in the intensive care unit. So what they did is they took new graduates right out of nursing school and trained us to be intensive care nurses. And it was a really good program. And I felt very blessed to get into it. There were only like 4 or 5 of us, and a couple of them dropped off because it just wasn't for them. So I did make another really good friend, but it was a weird friendship. She was a very controlling person, and I didn't really realize it at the time. I did end up meeting my husband and starting to date him right about that time as well. And she would get really mad at me when I didn't include her in our weekend plans and things like that. But we'd be really good friends. It was weird because, like, I guess she wanted a lot more than I could give as a friend. Like, we were work best friends. Like, she would call me her work wife at the time. I know people always say that, like, you have a work wife or a work husband. And that this was like back in 1993, so, or 94. So it was like kind of a new thing. And I thought that was a little bit strange, but I was like, yeah, I guess so, because we ate lunch together. We did everything together. We tried to coordinate our schedules so that we'd be working together a lot. And so anyway, that friendship was kind of weird. She got a little bit mad at me when I got very serious with my boyfriend, which is now my husband, and that friendship kind of fizzled. We ended up both going to different hospitals to work after that. So it was a good like break or shift. You know, again, a reason, a season, or a lifetime. The new grad season, the training as a new nurse. And then that season was over and we went different places, and that was that friendship. And I don't know, that one didn't really break my heart. So I'm gonna jump ahead to after I got married and had my daughter. We lived in a town right outside of the city of Chicago. It was a suburb, really lovely place. And I had my daughter, and most families, both people worked and they had nannies. And I found that when I was a stay-at-home mom now, going to different activities with my daughter within the first 2 years of her life, I'd meet a lot of nannies. I very seldom met a lot of moms. When she went to preschool, I did kind of befriend a group of moms, but it never really amounted to like a close friendship. And so I started going to like a story time at Barnes and Noble on Friday nights. And what they would do is read a children's book, and all the moms would sit there with their babies. And I met another woman my age. And the reason I met her is that our daughters started playing together in the bookstore. And we developed a really beautiful friendship, and I loved her dearly. And then we had to move out of that suburb for my husband's job. So I moved like an hour away, but I did everything in my power to still see her. So even though I wasn't still in the same town as her, whenever she would be home from work, and like we had this Tuesday night dinner thing where we'd get together, the girls would watch princess movies and things like that. And we would do mom things. So we would order food and we'd hang out and we'd talk, and it was like 13 again, having your best friend. It's the first friend since then that I felt like, oh my gosh, this is the best. And so I did everything to keep our friendship intact. And then she did something that was like a little bit strange. She had her husband find a job out where we lived so she could move. And she showed me that she found a house on my block just a couple doors down. Now, when we were best friends in the city, I lived in one town and she lived in the next town, and they were just like 10 minutes away, but we would drive or ride our bikes to see each other. And now she's living just doors down, and we stayed friends, and our daughters started kindergarten together, and she wrote letters to the school asking for her daughter to be placed in the same class as my daughter. And I felt like, oh my gosh, that's kind of overreaching. They didn't honor that request. I think that the schools know your child needs to make other friends. We can't latch them onto one friend and move them through the grades. So that didn't happen, but they stayed friends. And then first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, we stayed close. You know, she was she was encroaching on my life a little bit too much at this point now, and it felt a little bit smothering, which caused a tiny bit of conflict. And it was mostly conflict that I vented to my husband or to my mom. I didn't vent it to her. And I was just like a pleaser at this time. I was in my early 30s, and I don't know, I probably should have. So as the years went on, our daughters developed other friends, and also my younger daughter, and she had another daughter their age. When we met, they were infants, and now they were old enough to be friends. So like when I look back, I've got all these photos and all these videos of the girls doing lemonade stands, and it was beautiful at first. Like our daughter would be out on the swing set in the backyard, and she had a call that she would do, kind of a very loud, screechy caw, caw, and then you would hear her friend do it back from her yard. I mean, it was just beautiful. But I think me internalizing that and frustration that she was encroaching, and then I would make other friends, and that would kind of make my friend feel upset, and the whole thing just got a little bit toxic, and she sensed it. And her husband got a job change, and she didn't tell me that this was on purpose, but I know in my heart that it was. And it was like a heartbreak. I felt broken. I felt like my heart was broken, and it really hurt. You know, it's like that college roommate situation that I explained before, where things were changing and you don't want it to, but it is going to, whether you want it to or not. And that's what it was like. And she moved away, and then she came to visit me a few times. She was out of the state now, and we just eventually started seeing each other less and less and less. And the really sad part is that we're still friends on Facebook, but we never really notice each other's things. In fact, now that I have to actually type her name in to even see anything. It doesn't come through my feed since I don't interact with her. It's like, it's just weird and broken and hurts, you know? And then I did develop some other friends. I made my friend Elaine, my really good friend, who I'm still friends with, who lives in California now, who I stay friends with, and she is like a rock to me. And then I did have another really kind of weird toxic friendship, and I'll go into that another time. But I will say that that toxic friendship made me realize that there are things within myself that attracted that. You know what I mean? I can't be like, wow, I attract, like that one lady that I worked with as a new grad who called me her work wife, then my friend that moved away that broke my heart, and then I had another friend that I'm not going to go into right now, and the same kind of thing happened, really close love bombing, and then fell apart. And you know, it hurts. It hurts, and it's hard to put yourself out there, you know? And so now my really good friends are my friends that live right by me. Well, my friend Beth, who lives by me. And then I have my friend JD here on YouTube. She used to make videos, and she doesn't right now. She might come back. Some of you know her. And we became friends about 4 or 5 years ago, but we've never met in person, but I talk to her every single day. We have like a walkie-talkie app called Voxer, and we do different things. Like she'll like Vox me in the morning, and then while I'm getting my makeup on and stuff, I'll listen to it and respond. And then she'll respond again later in the day, and then I'll respond, and then she needs to respond again. So it's kind of like we do this back and forth, but we know, we barely ever talk about makeup or about YouTube. We talk about all the other stuff going on in our life. So I consider her a really good friend, even though we've never met in person, and I hope it will be a friend for a lifetime. So I've got these friends, but I don't have that friend that every single day we like are with each other. Not that that's healthy in your 50s necessarily, but I guess like the last friendship that I didn't talk about, because I don't want this video to get any longer. I would drive, she lives in my neighborhood, but it's a drive away because my neighborhood is large. So I'd drive over to her house and just knock on her door unannounced, and she'd open the door and we'd have coffee together. And I kind of miss that. I miss having that drop in. And so like if we would lose contact with each other for a while, one of us would just show up, or do something like that, but that friendship withered, and that's a whole nother story. So anyways, I just thought I would chat with you. This might be really boring, and I hope you're all still here, but I feel like the more vulnerable and sharing I am with you, the better, because it makes you feel not so alone if you're going through the same kinds of things. Heartbreak and female friendships. Yeah, I could write a book. I've had other ones. Oh my gosh, I have other ones. My friend Marcy, after my college days. Anyway, I'm forgetting some friendships. God has always been so faithful in bringing women in my life. And I have to learn about my contribution to some of these friendships kind of falling apart. I remember I read a book, and it was written by Blair from Facts of Life. Do you ever watch that when you were growing up? Her name's Lisa Welchel, something like that. And she wrote a book about her heart being broken in friendships. I read it and I remember feeling like, yes. And this is like 15 years ago that I read that book, I think 10 or 15 years ago. And I felt like, oh yeah, girlfriend, I can relate. And that might be a good book. I should pick it up again and read it again, and I'll let you know. But it's hard. The struggle is real. Yeah, please drop me a comment. Let me know any thoughts you have. You can share any heartbreak you've had. Let me know if you like this kind of content. If you don't, just say, Dawn, enough. We don't want to hear you talk anymore. Show us some makeup, show us some skincare. But if you like these kinds of videos, I'll try to film them more often. And as you open up with other people, the more you feel comfortable opening up with other people. Hope you all have a blessed and beautiful weekend, and I'll see you soon.